Have you ever been misunderstood by someone who never wanted to understand you? You try to explain. They twist your words. You try to stay calm. They push harder. You try to prove that you are not the person they say you are. But somehow, every explanation makes you feel smaller. Sometimes, what pulls a strong person down is not failure. It is the need to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding them. If this story speaks to you at any point, hit the like button, because it may help this message reach someone who needs to hear it today. This is the story of Aaron, a young eagle who lived on a high mountain cliff, where the wind was cold, the rocks were sharp, and the clouds moved slowly across the peaks. Aaron had wide wings, sharp eyes, and the ability to fly higher than almost any bird in the valley. Every morning, as the sun rose over the mountains, Aaron would spread his wings, leap from the cliff, and climb into the sky until the world below became small and quiet. From far away, Aaron looked powerful, free, untouchable, but inside he had one weakness. Aaron hated being misunderstood. He wanted others to think well of him. He wanted to be seen as strong, kind, and worthy, and whenever someone said something false about him, Aaron felt like he had to turn back. He had to explain. He had to prove himself. He had to make them understand. But one day, that weakness pulled him down. From the very sky he was born to fly in, far below the Eagle Cliffs, on the lower rocks, lived a group of black crows. They never flew near the highest winds. They never climbed above the clouds. They stayed close to the stones, watching every bird that dared to rise higher than they did. And every time Aaron flew past, they began to shout. One crow called out, "Look at him, there he goes again, pretending to be special." Another laughed. "He does not fly high because he is strong. He flies high because he needs attention." Then the leader of the crows tilted his head and said, "What a proud little eagle. He thinks the sky belongs to him." Those words cut deep into Aaron. He knew they were not true. He did not fly high to show off. He did not look down on anyone. He was only doing what an eagle was born to do. But the crows kept laughing, and slowly, Aaron's focus broke. Instead of continuing toward the sun, he lowered his wings and circled back. "You are wrong," Aaron said. "I am not proud. I am only practicing. I do not think I am better than anyone." The crows burst into louder laughter. "Listen to him," one crow said. "The great eagle is defending himself." Another crow shouted, "If you are so confident, why do our words bother you?" The leader smiled. "Maybe you are not as strong as you pretend to be." Aaron became more frustrated. He explained again. He told them how hard he trained. He told them he did not fly high for attention. He told them he only wanted to become better. But the crows were not listening. They had never wanted to listen. They did not want the truth. They wanted his reaction. Every time Aaron explained, they laughed harder. Every time he defended himself, they felt more powerful. And without realizing it, Aaron gave them exactly what they wanted. He left the high sky. He lowered himself. He stopped his journey, just to answer noise. That had no intention of understanding him. Maybe you have met people like those crows too. People who do not ask questions because they want the truth. They ask because they want to control your reaction. They want to see you angry. They want to see you lose your peace. They want to pull you out of your purpose and drag you into their argument. And when you let them do that, they win. not because they are right, but because they made you come down to their level. If you have ever been pulled into an argument like Aaron, comment the number 1 below. That day, after the crows finally flew away, Aaron sat alone on a low rock. The sky was still above him. The wind was still calling him upward. But Aaron no longer felt like flying. His wings were not broken. No one had taken away his strength. But inside, he felt heavy. What hurt him most was not the insult. It was the feeling that he had abandoned his own sky. He had stopped his flight. He had lowered himself. He had wasted his energy, trying to change the minds of those who had already decided what they wanted to believe. From my point of view, this is where many people lose their power. Not because they are weak, but because they let other people's opinions interrupt their path. They are growing, but a few voices make them stop. They are moving forward, but a few judgments make them turn around. They are flying higher, but they lower themselves, just to answer noise that does not deserve their energy. And the first lesson is simple. Not every insult deserves a response. Some words are not spoken to find the truth. They are spoken to pull you into a useless fight. That evening, as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, Aaron flew to the highest peak in the region. There lived an old eagle named Oren. Oren had survived many winters. His wings were no longer as fast as they once were, but his eyes were calm and deep, like the sky before a storm. They said Oren had flown through winds that most birds were afraid to face. He had been wounded between cliffs. He had lost feathers in snowstorms. He had been mocked by countless birds that lived far below him, but no one had ever seen Oren lose control. Aaron landed beside him and said, "I do not understand. The crows say I am proud. They say I fly high just to show off. But that is not true. How do I make them understand?" Oren looked at Aaron for a long moment. Then he asked, "Why do you need the crows to understand you?" Aaron was silent. Then he said, "Because they are wrong about me." Oren asked, "If a crow calls you weak, do your wings become weak?" Aaron shook his head. "If they say you are not an eagle, do you stop being an eagle?" Aaron shook his head again. Oren looked toward the distant sky and said, "Then why do you fly lower, just to answer them?" Aaron had no answer. Oren continued, "Every time you lower yourself to explain who you are to those who only want to mock you, you give them power over your altitude. You think you are protecting your honor, but you are handing your wings to the noise of crows." Those words stayed with Aaron. For the first time, he began to see the truth. He had always believed silence meant defeat. He thought that if he did not defend himself, others might think the crows were right. But Oren saw it differently. To Oren, silence was not weakness. Silence was self-control. Then Oren said, "Not everyone deserves your explanation. Some ask because they want to understand. Others only make noise, to see if you will lose yourself." The next morning, Oren said, "Today I will not teach you with words. Follow me and watch." The two eagles spread their wings and lifted off from the mountain peak. The morning wind rushed through the cliffs. Down below, the crows quickly noticed Oren. They circled the lower rocks and began shouting, "Look at that old eagle. He is too slow now. Maybe he cannot fly high anymore. He is only pretending to be wise." Aaron looked at Oren. He waited for him to react. He waited for him to turn around. He waited for him to say something. But Oren did not change direction. He did not look down. He did not answer. He did not speed up in anger. He did not fly lower to argue. He simply kept flying. Calm. Steady. As if the voices below were nothing more than wind passing under his wings. The crows shouted louder. They tried to follow him. They tried to use sharper words. They tried to pull him down. But the higher Oren flew, the greater the distance became. Soon, the crows began to grow tired. They were not used to that altitude. They could not handle the cold wind. They did not have the strength to enter the place where eagles belonged. Their voices became weaker. Then they disappeared beneath the clouds. Oren kept flying. He did not win by arguing. He did not win by proving the crows wrong. He won by refusing to leave his own sky. Aaron watched in silence. For the first time, he understood. An eagle does not need to fly lower to answer crows. If you understand this lesson, comment the number 2 below. And if this story is giving you value, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next one. From my perspective, this is one of the most important lessons in life. People can only pull you down when you agree to lower yourself for their reaction. If they mock you and you lose your peace, they have reached you. If they speak falsely about you and you spend the whole day defending yourself in your mind, they have entered your head. But when you keep flying, when you keep doing your work, when you no longer need every voice below to understand you, their power disappears. That afternoon, Aaron returned to his nest with a calmer, clearer mind. He remembered how many times he had flown lower, how many times he had stopped his journey because of a few insults, how many times he had allowed birds who feared the heights to control his emotions. Then, a few days later, the real test came. Aaron was flying past the same cliff again. The crows saw him and immediately began. "The proud eagle is back. Are you going to explain yourself again today? Come down here and tell us how humble you are. Maybe you fly high because no one down here can stand you." The familiar anger rose in Aaron's chest. He wanted to turn around. He wanted to tell them they were wrong. He wanted them to know how hard he had trained to fly that high. But just as his wings began to tilt downward, Aaron remembered Oren. He remembered the old eagle flying through the noise. Without losing altitude, he remembered that it was not the insult that lowered him. It was his choice to come down and answer it. So, for the first time, Aaron did not turn back. He did not explain. He did not argue. He did not try to make the crows understand. He looked down only once, calmly, then he kept flying upward. The crows became irritated. One shouted, "What is wrong? Are you not going to defend yourself today?" Another laughed. "Maybe you finally know we are right." Aaron heard every word, but this time, those words no longer controlled his wings. He whispered, just loud enough for himself to hear, "I do not need to fly lower to be understood." Then he climbed higher. The wind became stronger, the air became colder, but Aaron's heart became quieter than it had ever been. Below him, the crows tried to follow. They shouted louder. They beat their wings faster, but the higher Aaron went, the weaker they became. Their insults broke apart in the wind. Their bitter words faded into the sky. One crow turned back, then another, then another. Soon, the entire group became nothing more than tiny black dots far below. Aaron did not look back. For the first time, he did not win with words. He won by staying at his proper height. After that day, the crows did not stop immediately. They still shouted sometimes when Aaron passed by. They still called him proud. They still said he was pretending to be strong. They still tried to pull him down with the same old noise. But Aaron was different now. Sometimes he flew past in silence. Sometimes he looked toward the sun. Sometimes he heard them, but did not let the words enter his heart. Because now he understood. Not every sound deserves an answer. Not every judgment deserves an explanation. And not every bird has the right to decide how high an eagle should fly. Little by little, the crows lost interest. They realized Aaron was no longer their game. They could not make him angry. They could not make him doubt himself. They could not pull him out of the sky with a few sharp cries. And when a mocker no longer gets a reaction, the game ends on its own. One evening, as golden sunlight covered the mountain peaks, Aaron flew beside Oren above the clouds. Oren looked at him and asked, "What have you learned?" Aaron looked down at the wide world below, the cliffs, the forests, the rivers, and the crows. Now only small, dark shapes near the lower rocks. Then Aaron said, "I used to think I had to make everyone understand me. I used to think that if someone was wrong about me, I had to go back and correct them. But now I understand that some voices are not looking for the truth. They are only trying to pull me out of my own sky." Oren nodded gently. Aaron continued, "The value of an eagle does not live in the mouth of a crow. It lives in its wings, in the height it dares to reach, and in whether it remembers what it is. If you also understand that not everyone deserves your explanation, comment the number 3 below. And if this story reminds you of someone, share it with them. Your value does not decrease just because someone fails to see it. A mountain does not become smaller because someone at the bottom says it is not high enough. The sky does not become less beautiful because someone has never flown high enough to see it. And you do not become less worthy just because someone chooses to misunderstand you. What matters is not what they say. What matters is whether you still remember who you are. From that day on, Aaron did not fly the same way anymore. Not because his wings were stronger, but because his heart was lighter. He no longer carried the need to explain himself to every voice below. He no longer stopped in the middle of his path just to prove that he was not wrong. He no longer lowered his altitude to ask for approval from those who were afraid to fly with him. Aaron flew higher, not to show off, not to prove he was better than anyone, but because that was where an eagle belonged. And when the voices of the crows still echoed somewhere below, they no longer pierced his heart. They simply passed by, like wind moving across his wings. Because Aaron finally understood. When you truly know who you are, you do not need the whole world to agree with you. The story of Aaron is not just about an eagle and a group of crows. It is about all of us. The moments we are judged, misunderstood, mocked, or pulled into arguments that do not deserve our peace. Sometimes we think that if we explain enough, people will understand, but sometimes the problem is not that you have not explained enough. The problem is that they never wanted to understand you in the first place. So, the final lesson is not to stay silent in every situation. It is not to never defend yourself. And it is not to let people disrespect you without boundaries. The real lesson is knowing the difference. Explain yourself to people who truly want to understand. Take responsibility when you are truly wrong. Speak the truth when it genuinely matters. But do not waste your soul defending yourself to people who only want to watch you lose control. Do not lower yourself to answer noise that is not worthy of your energy. Do not leave your own sky just because a few crows do not like seeing you fly high. An eagle does not fly lower to prove that it is an eagle. It simply keeps flying. And so should you. Stop lowering yourself. Keep moving, fly higher, and live in a way that makes you respect the person you are becoming. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button to support the video. Share it with someone who needs to stay calm in the face of judgment. And do not forget to subscribe for more deep stories like this. Thank you for watching until the end. I will see you in the next story.